Hello all! Thanks for joining us on Two Analysts and Beyond, the talk show where two analyzer folks discuss the process analytics world and topics beyond analyzer. Hi, I'm Corentin Thierry, sales manager here at BARTEC US for Process Analytics Technology PAT Group. And today on the show, I have invited one of my colleagues from the BARTEC Benke factory who many of you probably know but might not have met in person. So without further ado, I would like to welcome David Zengerly to the show. David, welcome on the show. How are you doing today?
Hi everyone. Hi Corentin. Yeah, thank you for having me on this show. I mean, it's a pleasure and an honor. I'm feeling fantastic and I'm really looking forward to talking to you about analyzers.
So David, tell us a bit about yourself.
Well, I'm a guy from two worlds, to be honest. I was born in Germany and I was raised in New Zealand, a beautiful country by the way. Studied chemical and process engineering, and then, my family was always part of the oil and gas industry, with my father heavily being involved in that area. And, the way it I think was supposed to happen, I found my way also into the world of oil and gas by applying for a job at BARTEC, specifically with BARTEC Benke. And I've been with BARTEC Benke for the last 10 years, working in process analytics, and stayed with it ever since. And it's been a fantastic journey, and I'm really looking forward to looking for the future.
It's funny you mention it because I think we met shortly after both you and I started in this field. It was at the ACMA in 2012. I'm not sure if you recall that. I was a rookie for my then company, and now I'm understanding that you were somewhat of a rookie with BARTEC Benke. So isn't that funny?
I mean, yeah, that's I guess how the world works. I mean, 2012 ACMA was actually one of the very first big exhibitions where I had the pleasure of taking part in, and I have to say I vaguely remember meeting you because it was such a great experience for me that there were so many impressions, and I have to say it was a bit overwhelming to start and to begin with, but it was a great experience and I met a lot of people there, and now we meet again. The different paths have met each other again, which is, I think, a great story to tell and is fantastic.
So very quickly, about your education, you didn't, like most of us, you didn't actually study to become a process engineer, or a analyzer engineer. You mostly fell into it. That was the case for me for sure. So did you find that your education brought you into this world, or was it more by chance, or what was the path you took and that led you into this?
Yeah, very good question. Now, as I mentioned before, it was always part of our family. We've always been involved in oil and gas. I did some summer working experiences for a couple of weeks actually in a refinery where my father used to work at, and it always kind of stuck with me. And after really finalizing my education with the process and engineering degree, I was always trying to figure out where I would want to go to. I mean, I had to look down food industry and other industries, but I found the opportunity in this job description. It was more by chance, really, browsing for new opportunities and challenges. And I stumbled across this job description from BARTEC, and it sounded very, very interesting to me because it kind of included everything that was part of my general interest, oil and gas and analytics. I worked with a couple of analyzers in the lab during university times, and I thought it was a great opportunity, and I thought it was also a great challenge, and I took a chance, and it really paid out. It worked out. I ended up working for BARTEC, and I guess finding, from my personal experience, being the perfect guy born into analytics is something very difficult to see these days, because it's such a niche, specialized market. You probably come from different angles, and you find your way somehow into this field, and it grabs hold of you. And if it's your topic, it probably will never let go of you. So that's at least what I feel like. It's just something which took a hold of me, and I don't think I'm going to get rid of it. I don't want to get rid of it, but it's something which just sticks with you, I guess.
Yeah, I know that you're echoing the comments of so many other people I've spoken with, even some guests on this show. And yeah, it's a recurring theme. It's one of those where once you get into the analyzer world, and if it's your world, it kind of never lets you go. You always find yourself in one way, shape or form involved in it.
Yeah.
So yeah. I do agree with this.
I guess it's the same for you, I guess.
It is very much so. I didn't study to become an analyzer engineer or do anything analyzer related. That kind of a similar thing. Took a job that fit my profile fit rather well with the job description, and fast forward 10 plus years later, and here I am making talk show about analyzers.
Oh well, I think you've done really well.
Unpredictable, but anyhow. So I also understand you're a big soccer or football and car enthusiast.
Yep.
Please do share with us.
Well, you could say that. Well, soccer and football, I mean, has always been part of my personality, really. I've been playing football ever since I can think of. New Zealand, of course, rugby is, let's say, sport number one.
I was going to ask.
I'm not sure if I can mention that, but the rugby team in New Zealand is, for me personally, the greatest team in terms of rugby, and they always achieve tremendous results. And soccer is always
They very much do.
Yeah, soccer was always not like a high priority in New Zealand, but for me it always was. And I started different clubs at university, and trying to also celebrate diversity by bringing cultures together, and bring them together for the sport. And that's always something which was always very important to me, and was always kind of next to the sporting aspect and moving and keeping fit and all that. And it was, I think, one of the biggest attributes of soccer which kind of grabbed me as well, because it was phenomenal to see how focused people can be to a specific topic and forget everything else. The diversity topics about where you come from, what your beliefs are, that didn't matter at all anymore. We were just there having a good time playing football, and that was always a great experience, and I really treasure that in my memory, and I try to keep it going from now on. The body is, trying to keep up, but the years are taking its toll. I know it sounds kind of strange because I'm fairly young, I know, but as a football player, playing for a long time, I guess when you're, in your mid-30s and you're getting closer to 40, your body is saying, okay, maybe you slow down a little bit, maybe a little bit.
No, that's when you get into coaching.
Funny enough, I was just asked a couple of days about coaching young kids, and that's also something I really want to do later on, to be honest. That's something I really want to follow up on. Yeah.
That's really good. I didn't know about that. That's great news. I'm happy for you. Did you accept it, or is it something you're gonna do, or maybe at a later time, or?
Well, I'll probably do it at a later time. At the moment, I'm still active myself, but I'm more of a senior player now, so not so serious anymore. And once I stop the active playing bit, then I think I'm gonna, probably get into coaching young kids. Getting this whole diversity topic and just trying to be together with kids and helping them develop that. I think is something which I really, really enjoy doing and would love to do in the future. Yeah. Now,
do your kids play a bit of football, soccer, or
Well,
they're too young.
Well, yeah, I
Still.
mean, they're starting and getting rather good at it. I mean, it's very young and already got some strong elements there. Where I think.
Are you talking about good genetics when you say strong elements?
No. Definitely, probably not genetics, but it's it's more like the attitude towards playing football for the fun of it, and also for the just having a good time. And I can see that there are some attributes in terms of the strength of a shot and the way the eye-hand coordination, the foot coordination is taking part. I think that's something which is really helping also our son to develop in terms of movement and stuff like that. And it's good to see. It's good to see. And he's already developing an attitude towards always wanting to beat dad. And I think as time progresses, I have to try harder and harder and harder. But sooner or later, I probably just have to give in. Because, I can tell that he's going to have some fun time and he's going to be a quick guy, I think.
So you're saying that your days are now counted?
Well, I can see the end, let's put it this way. I don't know where the end will be, but I can see it coming. For sure, for sure.
So David, you've recently been promoted within the BARTEC organization. Can you please share with us your new, but maybe not so new anymore, but recent change of position?
Sure. Now I have been made responsible for the head of sales development for process analyzer technology product line globally. And it's a great honor of being able to do that and working with a great team. So basically, I also hold responsibilities for certain territories myself to develop the business and do the typical sales kind of work, of course, but also going a little bit beyond that, looking into market trends and talking to colleagues, working B2B, working with customers. That is still, of course, part of my daily routine. And now, additionally, I just also have to kind of manage a small team, but a very talented team. And it's a new challenge because obviously with that you have to develop also different skills, soft skills and skills of coordinating, talking to people, understanding different cultures and different backgrounds and these kind of things, which I think are a great thing to be part of and a great thing to keep learning at. And I'm just grateful for being part actually of a great team to work with and just to give some exchange and provide a base where we can work successfully together, basically, yeah.
So what does a typical day in the office or at work looks for you?
Well, probably not as exciting as a soccer player or anything like that, but you come to the office, and while you're on the way to the office, you probably have a couple of calls already because obviously you have different time zones. You have to talk to people. That
sounds fair.
Yeah,
that sounds fair.
It sounds I think also similar to what you experience, I guess, and what most of the people that experience in sales. You are reachable. You want to reach out, and you want to be available to customers and your partners and your colleagues, of course. And then when you get to the office, you basically just you go to your emails and you prioritize yourself. You look what kind of projects you're working on, and you just work successively, step by step through projects. And if you have a call where something is super urgent, because I experienced most of the times everything is super urgent, you have to, of course, figure out how you want to prioritize what you're doing. But mainly it's about handling RFQs, generating new leads, developing new ideas, strategic aspects of how to develop different markets, thinking about market developments, what is the market doing, how is it reacting, what will be a future maybe trend, what might be a weakness, a risk, or what is also the competition doing. And then also looking at projects, quotations, and then negotiations is a big part of it. And everything really involving sales and business development all comes together, combined with, of course, aligning on a regular basis with the team and making sure that we are all aligned and have the same kind of idea what we want to do and what we want to achieve.
Yeah, that sounds like a busy day.
So that's not all in one day, but that's generally what I'm kind of doing.
So tell me, now that you've been 10 years plus in this industry, you've held different positions, how about you share a little anecdote with us? Something, I shouldn't say funny, but something worth mentioning, something you recall as kind of the, analyze your anecdote, let's put it like that.
Analyze our anecdotes. Now, well, I guess the most common thing for this business from my point of view is the typical thing is that someone always has a challenge or a problem which he needs a solution for. And I think for me it's always kind of surprising, sometimes funny, sometimes sometimes an eye-opener as to, I think a lot of people underestimate what this field brings with you. And yeah, funny incidents was during different calls or different meetings. I remember going to India, and I visited a customer in India, and I was scheduled for a meeting, and I was not sure. I didn't know how much time they would give me, and I came into this huge meeting room, and all of a sudden there were like 20, 30 young students, kids, really, kids, coming into the room, joined by one or two supervisors or people that were just taking care of the kids. And then there was a director for the department, and he was joining us as well. And I was very surprised. I mean, I was a little bit caught off guard because, I mean, I didn't really expect now to have like a lecture in front of students. Yeah, and the funny thing about this was the director turned to me and he said, "Mr. Zengerly, welcome. You have 15 minutes to explain us everything about process analyzers." And I think that always is,
wow.
Yeah, that always kind of will stick in my head because we probably could talk to them for weeks, months, I don't know,
yes,
depending how many topics you want to touch. And I thought it was just a little bit, I mean, it's maybe for the insiders, the people that know how complicated, or not complicated, but how diverse this topic can be. I think it's kind of funny if someone comes to you with the expectation to explain everything in 15 minutes. I think that was, I turned to the good man and I said to him, "Sir, with all due respect, that is probably not going to work. I will do my best, but I can show you the introduction, but nothing more than that, because everything else will probably take weeks and weeks and weeks." So yeah, that was, I don't know, it's probably maybe not the funniest thing, but for me it was kind of funny because comparing it to the reality, I think that was kind of just the wrong expectation.
That is interesting, that's for sure. It kind of reminds me, when I've had that happen in the past, where we had my company had hired consultants to optimize, improve, to automate processes, and consultants ask you, so can you summarize the market for me in a few minutes, and who are the players, how it works? And it's like, well, I can, but you're going to have to define the boundaries of what you're actually looking for, because it can take 5 minutes or 5 hours, depending on where you define your analyzer market boundaries.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah, maybe one thing that definitely stuck to my head, maybe something a little bit more on the funny side, is next to all these meetings and the serious topics of discussing projects and going through HAZOP analysis and I don't know, talking to engineering companies about the correct layout and stuff like that. It was actually the times after those meetings which kind of stuck in my head. You know,
Yes.
being together with dear colleagues, traveling, I don't know, around the globe, and then
Yes.
coming together after this meeting, especially in the presence of the customer, and all of a sudden this atmosphere turned into a friendly atmosphere. And I remember one day we were actually coming back also to football and soccer. We once had a project meeting with the customer. It was very tedious, it was very long, it was scheduled for a whole week, and we just came out of a meeting in a day which took like 12 hours, and we would do it talking about very dry topics like if statements, you know, what if this valve fails, what is going to happen as a result of that, and how are we going to counteract this. So after that long, very tedious meeting, we actually went down to town, and we actually went to watch the World Cup. It was Germany playing against Brazil. Sorry to, of course, all the Brazilian supporters and fans. I'd have to apologize to bring this up.
Are we talking about the football game I'm thinking about in 2014?
I'm not going to
massacre.
I'm not going to mention it. I'm just going to say that, you know, it was a very good night for us, and one of my colleagues had the grand idea to, before the game started, he said, "Okay, listen, dear customer, for every goal that is scored, we're gonna have a drink." And at the beginning, I thought this would not be such a bad idea. But of course,
It must have been a very long night.
it turned out to be a very hard night, especially knowing the next day we had to continue with that tedious exercise of going through if and what and all that. So that was something that's definitely going to stick in my mind for years to come. Definitely.
I can imagine that. So David, you were mentioning earlier that in your position you get to interact with both PAT teams within, I will say, your geographical within your building, but also the various PAT salespeople of the BARTEC organization, as well as partner and so forth.
Yep.
So strictly from a relationship from more of a business unit function as you are to a sales unit function as I am, what do you see as the good, the bad, and the ugly in that kind of relationship from a sales perspective?
Excuse me. From a sales perspective, I have to say.
Or from your position, I mean.
Yeah. I mean, you have to. I mean, I think it's fantastic, really, to have a team globally with different cultural backgrounds, different ways of understanding and doing things. There's a lot of things I actually learned over the past years. I actually had to learn, just understanding that, you know, just talking to people, for example, in America, is not going to be the same thing as talking to people in, I don't know, other geographical areas like, I don't know, India, Middle East, or Singapore, yes, Asia, or China. And I think having these experts, local experts in these different geographical regions, which really know the cultural backgrounds, they know the ins and outs with the customer, and the way to behave, the way to communicate, and the way to understand and transport this technical information that we have, is something which is, I think, a great positive and strength from ours, really. I do think that. On the other hand, I have to say that also is a challenge, you know, because from my perspective here and our perspective here, we kind of have to accommodate for all the different kinds of levels, understandings, and reactions that might come up from communicating in a certain way or a certain manner. And I've learned over the years that sometimes, even though it was not intended to be something bad or negative, people might have understood it maybe the wrong way or maybe interpreted the other way. And that is something where I had to say I'm still learning. I'm never going to stop learning about that and how people react. And that is something which was definitely or is definitely a challenge, but is also helping us to develop further, to create understanding for different, again, cultures. And coming back to the topic of diversity, it is one of the topics which is also very, of high interest to myself, exchanging information with different cultures. And I would say, this bond, to have that out there directly in these different markets, I think that's one of the greatest and biggest positive attributes we have and strengths we have. And getting the message across, getting the technical message across on different levels is again, of course, another challenge. But it takes time, it takes patience, and it takes the will also to learn, wanting to understand. And we are here, from my perspective, our mission is to help everyone and anyone that wants to be helped. Anyone that wants to take the journey with us for process analytics. Hey, we are here. We want to do it together with all of you. And I think that's one of the great strengths and also part of the challenges we have.
Yes, very much so. Very much so. So since you talk to all these people around the world, you're privy to, I wouldn't say privileged information, it's not the right way, but you have a global view, you get a lot of information, you got a lot of perspective. So where do you think the market is going now? What do you think is hot? What do you think is the trend that we're seeing globally in terms of process analyzers?
That's a good question, and it's probably one of the most discussed questions within oil and gas, of course. And there are big commissions and many groups which have been formed on European basis, but also on the American side. And there are different institutes which are talking about this and looking at this. And I think everyone kind of has their own personal view on things like that. And if you ask me personally, I think that the conventional refinery market is definitely not dead. Definitely not. I think it's just undergoing a great pace of change. I think there's just change coming up. And with every change, there are, of course, boundaries which we have to cross. We have to be brave to go new ways, to follow new paths. And I think definitely going into a mixed future of having mixed products, not just this one single solution, but looking into different topics at the same time, I think will be of the essence. So if I'm talking about BEV, yes, so battery electric vehicles, I'm looking at hydrogen topics for the more heavy duty transportation sector or mid sector. But all that is also not going to replace container ships or big airplanes which are flying in the sky. And also, let's not forget all the industry that is actually followed up by the oil and gas industry. So, you have the polymers which are being produced, and that also is developing further and further. Chemical industry is something which is developing further and further, and we see a shift also from expertise. I think the biggest risk I see currently is that, unfortunately, that a lot of knowledge is being not lost, but it's on the verge of being lost. And that's where I think I see us in actually to step on the plate and to deliver and make sure that this knowledge is being spread across globally. And we have to be there to talk about biofuels, because I think that is something which is definitely going to be a big topic in the eastern region of the world, but also in the western region of the world. And in fact, actually, to be honest, it's anywhere that has to deal with transportation and CO2 emissions and reductions. I think there is no path which is going to lead away from that topic. My personally only opinion, I could be wrong, of course. And within that topic, you already have so many subtopics. How are you going to produce these biofuels?
Yes.
Bioethanol, biodiesel, how you produce biodiesels. So many different opportunities and potentials, which from my point of view, is actually something which we should be thankful for, because it gives us the diversity that we need to ensure that, that one solution maybe in Europe might not really fit maybe in China or America or wherever. But we have these diversities, and I think for us it becomes more of a challenge to chase all these different branches of possibilities. So going after hydrogen, going after chemicals, going after bioethanol, biodiesel productions, first, second generation fuels. There is a lot of things which we can still discover together. And I think it's going to be a mixture. It's really going to be a mixture. So hydrogen, chemical industry is going to develop further. There's going to be a shift, I think, from productions from one area to another. We've seen that in the past, that a lot of projects happen in Southeast Asia, a lot of plants being built there, especially for chemical, petrochemical and stuff like that. And biodiesel and bioethanol topics. Those are really the topics which I think are going to be, at least for the solutions that we offer right now, going to be, I think, the most hot topics, I would say, from my personal opinion. But again, as I said before, we gather the feedback from everyone globally, which is our strength again, from around the world, from our colleagues within our sales organization and our organization in general. We're not excluding anyone, and we're taking up any kind of potential lead or any idea, market developments that we see in the market. So by all means, just what I'm saying is not God-given and is not what is,
But I want to echo what you're saying, because I do see the same thing. Yes, it's also partly what I've told you, but nevertheless, I do see the same thing. And it's interesting, what you started with, the shift of knowledge. I don't know how prevalent this is in other parts of the world, but here it's very interesting in terms of analyzers specifically. Well, I think I can generalize it in the sense that if we take, for example, refiners are more and more focusing solely on the operational aspect of the refinery, the knowledge of how to refine fuels. And they're divesting more and more their well, I shouldn't say their knowledge, that's not the right word, but they're divesting what is not their core expertise. So technically speaking, analyzers is not their core expertise. They have to have them. But what I'm finding out is, as time goes, they rely more and more on vendors to provide them the information on how to efficiently install and operate the analyzers to achieve what they're trying to do, and really stepping away from doing the work of properly speccing an analyzer. I mean, I'm not saying they're not doing any of it, but we're seeing more and more this approach of, we need, for instance, an RVP analyzer, it needs to do all this, what do you have? And then if you get awarded the project, or if we get awarded the project, we have to do all this work afterwards to get it ready to use for them, so that basically they just plug it in, get the numbers, and then can just continue with their operations. They're stepping away from, not entirely, but they're stepping more and more away from actually being involved in the, I shouldn't say development, but in the analytical aspect of the project. They're focusing more on, when are we going to have the crew to install it? Who's going to install it? How much is it going to cost us? But the actual knowledge of the measurement, the actual knowledge of what makes it work or not, they're leaving it to us. They're not that interested in getting into it. And that's something very noticeable that I've seen, and I think it puts us vendors, and BARTEC in particular, in a, I shouldn't say nice, it's not about it being a nice position, but it's a unique position in which I think, as you said, whoever steps up to the plate is going to, not necessarily get the business, but is going to have a much better chance at it, because I think that's where all these larger companies are going, or even the smaller ones, in, what you do, tell us how we need to use it, and we know how we're going to use that information. We don't really want to get involved into how you do the measurement, that's really not our expertise.
Yeah, yeah, totally support that point. I mean, yeah, go ahead.
And then the second thing I wanted to also share with you, it's very interesting that you're talking biofuels. Last week I had a conversation with some of the BARTEC group colleagues, I should say some of our higher up colleagues, put it like that. And yeah. And it went very well, by the way. And
glad to hear.
And as I was preparing for that meeting, I found out something I didn't know to which extent the U.S. and generally speaking the Americas, how much biofuels we were producing here. I know that the U.S. was one of the leaders in biofuel production, but that shocked me. 40 to 45% of all biofuels is produced here in the U.S. and 30% is produced in South America. So between North and South America, you have like 70, 75-ish% of all biofuels being produced. Again, I knew the number was large. I never realized it was this large. So, and I saw some projections and the trends where it's going, and it was impressive to me. And so yeah, at least here, oh my goodness, I'm definitely seeing that shift you're talking about, where conventional refining is nowhere dead and not even close. But we're definitely seeing a lot of companies say, you know what, whether it's for economical growth, whether it's because of regulation, whatever it is, let's get into biofuels. And so all those large conglomerates and all those large typical petrochemical companies or just petroleum companies are now getting into biofuels. And it's to me, it's very exciting. I think it's going to be a very, I shouldn't say fun, but it's going to be a very interesting time ahead of us, because we're going to have to relearn a lot of things that we knew and assumed about refining, because the world of biofuels is such a diverse and different world. But yeah, so no, I also see entirely what you were mentioning. And I know Germany is also a very big producer of biofuels, because again, I dug through the numbers last week. I know.
Yeah, I mean, there are countries which have been trying to lead the way for, I think, a long time. And America, North America and South America definitely are part of that. In Europe especially, Finland has always been a country which has been trying to go unconventional ways and finding new solutions.
Yes.
And that has always been on our agenda. And funny enough, returning to one of our points before, Achim, 2012 was actually one of the first exhibitions, as I mentioned, I took part in. It was actually the first big project which we acquired on an exhibition. I think it was a very unique situation, because we had end customers from Finland approaching us about a new unconventional way of producing biodiesel. And from this general discussion on an exhibition stage, we kind of ended up in a fairly interesting large project for us, and the story continues up to today. So now we're talking about even bigger plants which are being scheduled and planned right now. And this is for me really the most exciting thing about this kind of field. You start something maybe 5, maybe a year ago, and you discuss something, and you don't 100% know if this is going to come through or not. But if it does, it's a fantastic feeling, because you've been there right from the beginning, and you had them.
Yes.
You have been playing some sort of, not a sales kind of role, but I see ourselves more than consultants. I see ourselves as consultants in terms of, you have, as you mentioned it previously, you have a problem or you have a challenge at hand, and it is involving a certain plant, a certain application, and you're looking for help how you can make it work. And coming then to us and talking to us, and we get the chance to be the consultants and talking to them about this and seeing it through all the way to end, to see it realized and see that it's actually part of a new diversified path in such a big industry. I think that is something which is always at least gets me excited every single time. And that's also one of the reasons why I follow cars and stuff like that, why that is my hobby, because cars and car manufacturers have to obviously also get acquainted with change, which might come up in the future. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. David, last question for you. What is going on within BARTEC PAT? Anything new, anything upcoming that you want to share with us, that you can share with us? We're always curious to learn from the source. What are you able to share with us as to anything new within the PAT organization?
Yeah, sure. I mean, first up, we are, of course, developing ourselves further, and we're actually at the moment looking also for new team members, by the way, so I'm doing a little bit of advertising here right now. We're actually looking for new regional sales development managers, which want to be part of the journey of this change which is going on in the industry. And apart from that, we are heavily looking into these diversified areas. So we are analyzing the market behavior in biotopics, and we are basically looking at our experience data pool and look at what we have gathered as experience. And we are currently preparing ourselves to get information and get solutions in a representable way to be transferred to customers and of course to our dear colleagues and partners, to make sure that everyone is aware of that we have actually been dealing also with biotopics for many, many years already, and we can be a great partner in delivering solutions for this kind of thing. Next topic is of course developments in other product areas such as the trace moisture area. We are looking into getting more direct and more precisely into a very big market, which is the LNG market, with new developed products. And I think everyone that is all our colleagues will have heard about that, and we talked about it. But I think that's something very exciting because we have a strong partnership with a very big global player behind that, and I'm really excited that we can go this path together with this global player. I think that's a very positive sign towards BARTEC and also PAT to have the chance to do that. And then we are also looking continuously in new challenges and new potential applications which might be of interest. At the moment we have let's say the unique situation that we have fantastic people in Chicago and with ORB, and we have fantastic people in Rheinbeck with Benke, and putting all of that experience together and having a development on the ORB side with new stuff that is coming up, which you of course know about and everyone else knows about, but seeing it getting into a realization now is a great thing to see. And I know the guys from Chicago are working on the next thing, which is fantastic. And the funny thing and the beautiful thing about this is that the next upcoming thing and being developed or looked at ORB right now actually includes stuff from Benke as well, which is fantastic, I think.
Yes.
And I think
joint development, yes.
And I think that is the path.
I have heard of it.
That is the path to continue on, working closely together. Yeah.
Yes. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for sharing this. Now, as common on this talk show, do you have any questions for me?
In fact, I do. You've been asking me about how it is from my perspective working with a team globally. And to be honest, I would like to take the opportunity to ask the same question back to you. What is it like from your perspective to work with us together on PAT and the market and so on? It's
awful. That's it.
No. Just like I thought. Just like I thought.
No, I'm joking. It's a question I get asked, I shouldn't say often, but once in a while. And I am very fortunate. I'm in a very special situation because I'm part of a sales unit, but I also have a factory, the BARTEC ORB factory, that's attached to my region. So I'm privy to some, I shouldn't say information, it's not about information, but I have a knowledge source very close to me in whom I can rely. So it's, again, I'm very fortunate for that. When I joined BARTEC, it's been about 2.5-ish, two something years. And it took us some time to get everyone settled as to what would be our roles and duty. But I think now we've gotten to a point where we all have a very good understanding of each other. It's now become very easy for me to get the information that I need, or if I have a problem, I get amazing support. And then, as I said, the reason why I was bringing up the factory that I have within my region is because I'm never stranded. If it's after hours in the US, I can call over Germany and I get someone to help me. If it's within hours in the US and the folks in Germany are not available, I can always ask the folks in Chicago. So I think, like, to me, it's kind of the dream, because I have constant support from either or factory with very knowledgeable people. I've gotten to the point where we know each other very well, so I don't need to explain for too long what I'm looking for. People usually know where I'm going with the information I'm requesting. And I'm also very fortunate that people are very cooperative. I really enjoy the easiness, the smoothness of discussion whenever there's a problem, whenever I have a need. And it's not one people, it's 10 people that show their support, that want to help me solve the problem, or that want to help the customer. So yeah, it's from my perspective, it's very it's a very pleasant position. I'll put it like that. It's a very pleasant position because I in a very selfish way, if I may say, I rip all the benefits from the business units, but because I'm a sales unit guy, I get none of the problems. So it's a very nice position to be in. You know, I focus on sales issues, sales unit issues. I get all the benefits of the BU, and it's a very, very enviable position. I'll put it like that. But no. I mean, all jokes aside, from my perspective, yeah, it's just the richness, the wealth of the support, and the depth. That's also one of the reasons why I joined BARTEC. I was looking for a company that was more, I shouldn't say established, not being established, but that had that depth both in resources and knowledge and support. And so far, it hasn't let me down. And it's been very useful. Where, you know, our markets are very dynamic with the gap we've had here in the US for a number of years before I joined. There's a little lack of market knowledge, but I think we're catching up to that, and I think we're now getting a good understanding, getting everyone on the same page. And you know, the fact that you brought up the biofuels that we have been discussing offline for quite some time now shows the fact that what I'm saying that doesn't just fall into, you know, deaf ear. People are actually, whether or not they intend to do something about it is a different story, but at least I am being heard, and it's not about my ideas, but the feedback that I provide is at least taken into account. Now, you know, I understand that we all need to make business decisions, and even though, you know, you get some information you might not be able to do, or you might not decide to do anything with it. But I think the important part, and what I saw when I joined BARTEC originally, is that people were not really necessarily willing to even listen to the information. And again, I'm not pointing fingers or anything. I'm just saying, due to history and or how the structure had been set up. And I think now we're in a lot more comfortable position to discuss, as I said, problems or trends, future. And I think what you just mentioned, the fact that we're having a joint product being developed between factories. We also had a relatively big project, as you know, last year, 2 years ago, in butane blending that involved equipment from both factories being put together. I mean, I think we're going in the, I don't know if it's the right direction, but we're definitely going in a direction that is enjoyable, in a position that is desirable to be in, at least from my perspective. Again, okay. Sales unit person, reaping all the benefits from the BUs, working well. So, you know, to me, it's a very good direction that you guys are going into. So, you know, okay. I just want to congratulate and encourage you in keeping in that direction, because I do think it's the future. I do think it will, in the long run, will bring a lot of benefits, not only to my regions, just generally speaking, at the world and PAT, but the BARTEC as a group.
Perfect. Thank you. I mean, that's very encouraging to hear, and is a great feedback. Thank you.
No, you're very welcome. I appreciate the honesty you had. So that's the least I could do. Well, with this being said, David, I'm so happy and thankful that you joined us on the show. To everyone watching, thanks a lot for coming and watching the show. I will be seeing you guys soon again on a different talk show. We have more guests to come in this month of July. So I'm really, really happy that you've joined us, and that, David, you were able to make time for us. And I'll be seeing you all very soon on To Analyze and Beyond. Take care, guys. Thank you, David.
Take care. Thank you very much.
Bye.